Well, greetings, everyone. We are in chapter 23 of Brian McLaren's book, We Make the Road by Walking. Jesus and the Multitudes. In the epic romance and disaster movie from 1997, Titanic, James Cameron really put into sharp focus the differences in social classes. It was a great movie, of course, with those great actors, Leonardo DiCaprio playing Jack Dawson, and then Kate Winslet playing the Rose, the upper socialite person from the great classes who had been in a different world than Jack, who was coming from the rough and tumble, very much down in the steerage part of the boat. So that movie won a boatload of Academy Awards, pun intended. It was an amazing movie, and of course, I enjoyed it immensely. Obviously, a lot of people did. Stories about the difference in social classes, they've been around forever, since the earliest times in recorded history. And of course, the Bible is much a part of that history, telling this story. Titanic is a movie, I guess, that I've really resonated with. Part of it is because I have a family connection with the whole story of the Titanic. My father's uncle was a chief mining engineer up in my hometown of Norway, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula. And he would go back and forth to Sweden and from Europe often. One of his trips, he was going to come back from Europe bringing a bunch of industrial diamonds, because they used those diamonds to drill for iron ore in the UP, great iron-rich territory. So on one of those trips, as he was coming back from his time in Sweden and in the area in England, he had bought a beautiful lamp for his wife. So he was on his way to the boat when he realized that he had forgot the lamp back in the hotel. So he hired a car and raced back to the hotel to get the lamp. When he got back ready to dock the ship at the dock, it was gone. He missed the boat. But of course, the boat was the Titanic. Well, he was one of these upper class folks, and he would have been on the better classes of the ship in the Titanic. Again, another example of the differences in social classes and how people are treated when you're from that part of the world and that social class. Well, our chapter this week is Jesus and the Multitudes. Understanding really how each group is treated. There's always a larger, small group of people who are at the top, 1, 2, 3, 6% of folk who have a lot of control, a lot of power. And then, of course, there's a middle group who kind of work between the top and then the lower class who form the multitude. And the point of this chapter really is to talk about how they relate to each other and God's order for the world and God's understanding of what it means to be part of one or the other and how they relate together. As we look at this story, Jesus' parables are full of those kind of examples. We think of the Samaritan, who was a part of a religious class that was considered really unworthy of the other people of his time, of their time. Or the lepers, or the little girl who needed help, or a prostitute, or other people who are vulnerable. The tax collectors and the sinners. All part of the margins of society. And it's those people who Jesus often lifted up. They all found favor with Jesus. The understanding that those who follow God and look for God's kingdom to be fulfilled on earth are called to follow that very same path. To care for the poor, to work with the people on the margins, and to, again, lift them up. It's our call today to identify with and work with people on the margins, whether we're in the middle or whether we're in that higher part of society, like my father's uncle, who is coming over probably in first or higher class on the Titanic, that he survived in spite of his situation. So I think today, as we look forward to our living out our daily lives, to think of people who are on the edge, the people who are the tax collectors of our day, the people who are disabled, the people who need care, who are vulnerable, who are part of what Jesus would call us to lift up. So on this day, think of where they are in your life, where you are, how you live, and then how God calls us to live with others. As you walk this road, may you look for those on the right or left, front or back, who need God's care and support this day. God's blessings on this continued journey. Amen.